Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
The impact of the Ford electric vehicle plant tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined tonight by John Threadgill, the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce President. John, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Mark Herbison is President CEO of HTL Advantage, which represents 3 rural counties where partly where the mega site is and where the Ford plant is going. Mark, thanks for being here again.
Thank you, Eric.
Along with Bill Dries, reporter with the Daily Memphian. So I want to talk to you both, and this will be we're going to talk to some other folks over the coming months and weeks about the impact of the Ford plant, the potential impact. I want to start with you, Mark. Both of you are veterans of the Memphis Area Chamber of Commerce. I think that's where I first met you both, but you are now representing Haywood, Tipton, Lauderdale counties,
correct.
The mega site, 3,600 acres out there. I'll do a quick background on it for those who maybe aren't as familiar with this. Ford and its partner have come forward with a massive $5.6 billion plant that they're going to build. It's supposed to open in 2025. It will create as many as 6,000 jobs. There's talk of as many as another 22,000 jobs in terms of vendors and suppliers around it. The state legislature just passed almost $900 million in incentives to make the deal happen. We'll talk about what's in that. It's a massive deal, Mark, right? I mean, you both have been doing this economic development back to Tennessee economic development back in the 90s, 80s, and we'll talk some more about that. What do you think, quickly, that the impact will be both on where the plant is, but you're a Memphis Chamber veteran and have done a lot of economic development here. What's the impact also on Memphis and the surrounding suburbs and so on?
Well, I don't even think we can calculate it yet, Eric. It is such a vast deal. It is a monstrously large project. I don't think we've ever seen anything of this magnitude when it started. So we're going to start with 6,000 jobs, nearly $6 billion in investment, but that's just Ford and SK Innovations. They're going to have battery recycling, colloid plants. They're going to have other vendors and suppliers on site. So we could be talking in 2025, 26, as many as 8,000 or 9,000 people a day working on that site and growing. I mean, all the plants in Tennessee like Nissan and GM and Volkswagen have all grown and expanded. I mean, Nissan has grown significantly since it came in the early 80s or early 70s. I can't remember when that was, but I think it's going to be an incredible impact for the entire region. Going to create somewhere between 30 and 50,000 new jobs in the region. We've already seen kind of a gold rush for the land in and around the mega site, so people are looking at developing in that area. I think we'll see tremendous amount of residential development. I think we'll see a lot of retail and commercial development. I do think there's some issues we have to work through as far as for some of our communities in regards to public utilities, specifically sewer, because we're all a little bit hamstring in regard to our sewer capacity across West Tennessee, but it's going to have an incredible impact. I don't even think we can really get our arms around how big it's going to be at this point.
For you, John, in Bartlett, is, depending on how fast you drive, 25, 30 minutes from the site. I mean, it's very, very easily people relocating to the greater Memphis area to work in the facilities Mark just talked about.
20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's 20 minutes depending on where you are. I mean, and so, because some people have talked a lot about, well, it's not in Memphis, it's a long ways away. It's a long ways away, but not really, right? I mean, it's 50 minutes from downtown. For a lot of people, that's a short commute in other cities.
It's 14 miles from the Shelby County border.
Yeah. Right. So let's start with Bartlett, but then I want to get into some history you have with economic development in Tennessee. But what are you all talking about in Bartlett in terms of what this could do to the community?
Well, it's going to have an impact, as Mark was talking about. I mean, everybody's going to benefit from this, and Memphis is going to be a great beneficiary. I mean, I've heard some people say, well, Memphis is not going to get much out of this. Well, that's not true. I mean, just look at Nashville and look at what GM and Nissan's done for that whole metro area. Bartlett stands to gain greatly from this. Residential rooftops, industrial development. I mean, we're going to benefit. Everyone should benefit from this. So I don't think Bartlett's going to be any better off than anyone else.
Is there, before I go to Bill, are the benefits even I don't want to be negative, but I mean, there's also some planning that needs to happen. I mean, Mark mentioned sewers. I mean, you look at communities around the country that exploded. Nashville, one of them. They don't have. They kind of outgrew themselves. Atlanta, you can't get anywhere. I mean,
Right.
you're 40 minutes from anywhere when you're trying to drive in Atlanta. Are you all also starting to talk about planning for this really attractive and wanted growth?
Well, that's a very good question. We have challenges, and so we have to address those challenges. And so, yes, we need to do some planning. And I've already been contacted by some folks that are offering their services, their professional services in that area. So, but those are issues that we're going to have to address, no doubt about it.
Right, Bill.
Mark, I think we've first heard about Ford making this commitment to 2 battery sites in North America in May. I remember from talking to you today that the announcement was made. You were actually on the trail of this a couple of months before that.
I got involved in March, in early March in this bill. When I got
Did you know who it was? I'm sorry.
I didn't know for a little bit, a few weeks, and then when we started getting ready to have some in-person meetings and things like that, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
So I take it they had a pretty big list of potential sites that they were looking at, and they had 2 choices to make ultimately.
Well, and we were not made aware of where they were looking. That is not something that they ever made us aware of and shared with us. But I knew they were looking in a couple of places in the South. We knew we had competition, but it all started with that site. The search began. I think they were looking for a very large site. I think they really wanted to build a campus situation. So we've got the largest site in the country, 4,100 acres of land, and contiguous 3,600 acres on the same side of the road together. So it all started with that, with the site itself, and so they were very pleased, I think, when they got a chance to actually come and look and analyze and do due diligence on that site.
Is the idea that all of the supporting industries with this, all of the suppliers will be on that campus?
I don't think so, Bill. I think you'll see a number of companies that Ford actually invests in that'll come on site with them, kind of like SK. That will be a joint venture partnership between them. But I think you'll see other suppliers, tier 2, tier 3, that will come in closer proximity. This will be a just-in-time type of facility where seats will get there 20, 30 minutes before they go into the vehicle, electronics, brakes, probably somewhere around 30,000 truck movements a week in and out of this facility to bring those components in and out. So I think you'll see a number locate on site, but I think you'll also see a number, just like with Volkswagen and Nissan throughout the region. Look up the I-75 corridor, both north and south of Chattanooga, and you just see a number of suppliers, and same with Toyota Mazda in Huntsville. Southern Middle Tennessee's already gotten 3 or 4 industries out of that Toyota Mazda project.
Right. John, you were around when this auto corridor that we have in Middle Tennessee that goes into Georgia, Chattanooga, that whole area was really starting to take shape. And it was a kind of a hard thing for people to realize, because when you said auto manufacturing in the 1980s, the early 1980s, when Nissan made the decision to come to Smyrna, people thought Detroit.
Exactly.
As hard as that is to believe now, people thought Detroit, that it was pretty hard for people to see this kind of corridor of manufacturing. What did we learn from that? And can one state have 2 of these corridors, or do the 2 corridors become one?
Well, it was a huge game changer. And I was in ECD when Nissan and both GM announced. And it just completely changed the perspective that a lot of industries had about Tennessee and the South. Keep in mind, back in the 80s, the Japanese were just going gangbusters. And they had a reputation that when they made a decision, it was a very solid decision. They were very slow and methodical and took their time. But when they made a decision, everyone, especially Americans, said, oh, they've really researched this. So when Nissan announced that they were coming to Tennessee, it opened the eyes of a lot of other industries across the country. And from that moment forward, Tennessee started to see a lot more activity as far as new industries coming in. And then shortly after that, General Motors announced that they were going to build their Saturn plant in Tennessee, in Spring Hill. And that just added fuel to that. So I was with ECD all through the 80s, and most of my job at that time was taking vendors of first and second tier suppliers to Nissan and General Motors and finding locations for them within a 2 to 3 hour radius of those plants. So we saw a lot of activity. Now, when I was at ECD, the prevailing attitude was that there was the I-65 corridor, which cut through Nashville down to Huntsville and Birmingham, and then there was the I-75 corridor. And all during the 80s and 90s, and up until recently, until Nissan built the plant down in Jackson, Mississippi, the attitude was that all automotive facilities would be along those two corridors. And now, of course, we've seen it move over to the west, but it's taken many decades for that to happen.
What was the resistance?
Yeah.
Why would they not build in Memphis? Why would they not build on the I-40 corridor or the I-55?
Well, because if you look at the I-65 corridor and the I-75 corridor, they all lead to Michigan. Okay, so that was, and they all went through Ohio and Kentucky, where there was already a lot of that infrastructure was already there. So, you know, it just made sense that they would just follow this straight line. You know, that's kind of how people think, A to B, you know. So, you know, over here in West Tennessee is like, oh, okay, well, we're out of that corridor, so, you know, we're not going to get anything. And then when Nissan went to Jackson, Mississippi, that kind of altered that. You know, you started seeing things moving a little bit to the west, and then Toyota announced in Blue Springs. So, you know, it's been a long time in coming, but it's come.
Well, and the other question, Mark, is were you looking over your shoulder at some Middle Tennessee competition for this project?
Yes, we were, and other competition. I mean, we've got competition very close to us here now. We've got a mega site in Holly Springs, Mississippi. We've got a mega site in West Memphis, Arkansas. So yeah, we were looking over our shoulders, but we were prepared. I think, you know, I worked at the Memphis Chamber for 14 years. I've always been a believer in the mega site. I would go back to 2006 or 7 when we did the very first certification, when myself and Paul Latour, who was the president of the Jackson Chamber of Commerce then, who's now the head of the Rutherford County Chamber, went through that process to get that certified. So I've been involved for many, many years with that site. I think one of the things that we did, which was just, the timing couldn't have been better, is the organization that I manage, we conducted a very in-depth, very expensive labor analysis of the mega site last year that was finished right around the first of the year. So it came out literally right before this project hit. And we were able to show that we have a large urban workforce, the same workforce that we were successful in locating corporate headquarters in Nike and all these industries in Memphis, all the industries in DeSoto County, Mississippi. And so we were able to prove that to the company, that we do have a large urban workforce to pull from and a lot of quality people and a lot of great training opportunities here as well. So
talk a little more about that. I mean, one of the things that the state funding is for is $40 million to build a new TCAT at Tennessee. I can't do that.
Tennessee
College of Applied Technology.
Yeah, when I kind of very focused, not quite community college, but you know, learn to be a machinist, learn to all kinds of computer training, all that. There'll be a TCAT on the site.
Right. And that is typical for all of that I understand. I think there's a TCAT on the Chattanooga campus of Volkswagen.
Yeah, and in the Nissan one. Yeah. And you've done, I'll go to you and Bartlett, you and I have talked about this before over the years. I mean, in Bartlett, you all have a very nice medical device ecosystem there, right? I mean, there's a couple of big ones and then all the little follow-on ones. And it's very big and impressive. It's not the Ford scale, but it's a similar dynamic. And you all have you've worked a lot with local high schools, with local community colleges to keep the flow of employees into those medical device companies.
Yeah, if I could mention that,
sure.
You know, we've done an economic analysis of the medical device industry in the Memphis metro area, okay? We did one back in, I think it was 2017, Young & Associates did that for us. The impact that the medical device industry has on the economy, local economy, is as strong as what Ford will have, okay? The difference is Ford is one big project. The medical device is spread out among many. Now, when I was working with the medical device industry and we were trying to address this concern that they had about having a sustainable pipeline of skilled workers, the main concern was machinists. And I got to know a lot about that industry, okay? And so the thing that they always talked about in the medical device industry was, look, CNC machinists are big in 3 industries, okay? Medical device, aerospace, and automotive, okay? So these students that are coming out of Bartlett High School, Arlington High School now has a CNC shop, and TCAP, the facility that we have in Bartlett, which was primarily funded because of the medical device cluster that we have in the Bartlett area, the people coming out of those classes, learning those skills, could easily feed into the Ford project.
Does that, okay, so let's, the pessimistic view of that is, well, now there's going to be even more demand for a finite labor pool, right? The optimistic view is, I'll go to you, Mark, that, well, there's just going to be that much more training, and there'll be a lot of relocations of people to make
I mean,
this
I think
happen.
if you look around the country, if you look at Tupelo, if you look at Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where Mercedes is, you look at where the Hyundai plant is, you look at Ooltewah near Chattanooga, you look at Spring Hill, all of those places really from a population perspective have exploded. You're going to see huge in-migration. In-migration where we've seen out-migration because especially in Haywood County. Haywood County has always been an agricultural county. It's been one of the breadbasket counties of the entire country. It's one of the top cotton producing, still the top cotton producing county in the entire state. So they didn't have that infrastructure for manufacturing. It was an agricultural community. That really kind of went away when corporate farming started taking hold in the 80s and 90s. And then when the passenger railroads went away in the 70s, you know, you had a double whammy there where really they had to start to try to readjust. Well, you know, now we've got this huge manufacturing center there and it's going to really see explosive growth there, and that we're going to bring a lot of new people in, we're going to do a lot of new training, and we're really going to promote this Tennessee and West Tennessee as being the center, the new center of EV production in the entire world. This facility is going to be their most sustainable, most impressive facility in the world, and Ford is going to bring people from all around the world here to see how they're doing this business.
The thing, before I go to Bill, you know, again, the kind of cynics or skeptics will say, yeah, but Electrolux. Electrolux was made vacuums. There was a lot of fanfare. It was built a factory here. Was going to hire 1,000 people. I think they got to maybe some hundreds. Ultimately, closed that and consolidated elsewhere. I think what you will say is that was nice. Electrolux was a great try, but the scale is so different than what when we're talking about Ford versus Electrolux.
Yeah, this is incredibly different. I mean, this is just the site itself. You could take the Nissan site, the GM site, and the Volkswagen site and put it on the mega site and have over 1,000 acres left over. Yeah. This is a huge. It's going to be an industrial mega complex, and so it is vastly different. Just these 2 battery plants alone will dwarf a factory the size of the Electrolux factory. So it is a massive scale, right. And we're switching to this new technology. It looks like, you know, the companies around the world like Amazon and FedEx are going to drive that, and so we're going to make this transition. We're going to be at the center of that for the entire world here in Tennessee and West Tennessee.
Bill.
Mark, your 3-county area also includes Lauderdale County, and I know at least Governors Haslam and Bredesen struggled in their administrations to come up with some kind of answer for the economic downturn that had really hit Lauderdale particularly hard here in West Tennessee. But on the other hand, Lauderdale County is not really a stranger to manufacturing.
Correct. Well, and the great thing for Ripley and Lauderdale County is they're a really short drive to the mega site. You're in a 25-minute drive to the mega site, a really good road. You can get to Brownsville on Highway 19, which is getting ready to be widened, and that was already in the plan before this happened. But they've really stabilized. If you look at the school system there, their scoring has gotten better, their labor participation rates have improved. They have developed a number of really great industrial parks. We've got 3 rail-served industrial parks in Lauderdale County now, a 110-acre park in Ripley, and then 2 parks in Halls, Tennessee that can be rail-served. So they've really made great improvements. If you look at the downtown of Ripley, if you go to downtown Ripley, I'd put their Court Square up against any Main Street Court Square in the entire country. They've done a really incredible job. They've done a great job with Highway 51, whereas if you look in Shelby County and some of the other areas throughout my region, Highway 51 has some really issues with it. They've done a really good job in planning that and and managing that growth on Highway 51. And then they're a real close drive to I-55 and the bridge across the Mississippi River at Dyersburg. So their time is coming. They did have a lot of loss from Tupperware and some big industries that left, but you've still got Marvin Windows and Komatsu and American Greeting Cards and a lot of companies that are thriving actually and doing better than they've ever done before. So it's positive outlook for Lauderdale County.
John, the auto industry obviously is not immune from trends and changes. What are some of the lessons that we should know as a result of Nissan and Saturn and GM coming here?
Well, you know, when the automotive industry, if you have a strong cluster in your neck of the woods and that industry has a cold, then, you know, everybody else gets a flu pretty much. I mean, it does have a ripple effect. And you saw some downturns with GM, for example, the Saturn plant. You know, when they closed Saturn, then they moved some other production there. And I believe they're turning Saturn into an EV vehicle facility. So, you know, they're having to ramp up and all that. But talking about the in-migration that this will have, I mean, Spring Hill, I remember before it was announced. I mean, I love driving through Spring Hill. It's a quaint little, cute little town. There's 50,000 people there now. Yeah. And it's not just people removing around, you know, in Middle Tennessee. It's people coming in to fill those jobs and all that. You're going to see that. You know, I've been watching this industry now for 40 years in Tennessee, and I have not seen a huge negative impact that it's had yet. Okay. That's not to say there may not be something down the road, but right now I have not seen where there has been a strong decline in the economy in Middle Tennessee because of that. In fact, I think it's just, you know, there's hiccups occasionally, but I haven't seen anything major happen.
Mm-hmm. Mark, were there discussions about Ford, as well as the other automakers, making a big bet on electric vehicles? Is that a risk?
You know, I don't think so. I believe that the industry's headed that way, the federal government's headed that way. I think the entire world is headed that way. We're going to see the infrastructure for electric vehicles be built. We've seen battery technology just improve exponentially every year. I mean, I think they're talking about this truck, the F-150 will go 300 plus miles without a charge, and that with the supercharging stations can charge in 20 minutes. So the technology is getting to a point where I think it's coming. I don't think we can stop it. And I think from the perspective of batteries and rare earth metals, even all this battery recycling that they're figuring out how to do is going to really help the environment as well, because they can recycle almost all the rare earth metals out of batteries where they were burying those batteries. Now they're recycling all of that. So technology is drastically improving every year.
We're going to have, I mentioned other shows we're going to do, and Beverly Robertson, the president of the Memphis Chamber, will be on in a couple of weeks, along with Ted Townsend, the head of economic development there. But both y'all, veterans of the Memphis Chamber, been, you know, in and around Memphis. I mean, I generally talk about Memphis as a region, you know, but I've heard some people say, well, this really isn't going to impact the core of Memphis. Your thoughts? I'll go to you first, John.
Memphis is going to be impacted greatly, and to the positive side. There's no doubt about it.
With just everything.
Well, I mean, you know, Memphis is you got the Memphis airport, obviously. People are going to be coming and going, okay? You're going to have downtown entertainment, midtown entertainment. I mean, people are going to gravitate toward Memphis for their services, for their enjoyment. So, yeah, Memphis is going to be a big magnet for this whole area, and it's going to benefit greatly. I mean, anyone who doesn't think that that Memphis is not going to see the benefits from this I don't understand where they're coming from.
Similar.
We'll see direct benefit from the executives living in Memphis. Right. We'll see direct benefit from employees, production, assembly employees living in Memphis and commuting out there. We're going to see manufacturing and distribution companies come to Memphis because of this project. And then every community like Brownsville, Somerville, Covington, Ripley that grow, just like Murfreesboro and Lebanon, Nashville's the hub of that. Memphis is going to be the hub of all the entertainment, all the dining out. So they're going to see all of that benefit. I mean, in a way that I don't think we can calculate at this point.
Yeah, the thing you got to keep in mind is that this project will inject a minimum of $1 billion a year of new wages into the economy. Now think about that, $1 billion a year coming into the economy. as new wages.
Yeah, if a tenth of that is spent in Memphis proper,
Absolutely.
it's $100 million. I
Thank
mean,
you.
right,
Yeah.
and it will probably be more,
Yeah.
just because of the dynamics you're talking about. Just a minute left. How much was Memphis itself a part of the conversation with Ford? Did that? I mean, the FedEx, the AutoZone, the Grizzlies, the kinds of things that you and I we've talked about
all
before
of
in
that
terms
was
of
a
economic-
part of it, and we brought the Memphis Chamber in late June, early July to really start communicating all that information. We brought in the Jackson Chamber as well. Once they determined the site was really what they wanted and it worked, then it switched to quality of life and workforce, and that's when we really teamed up as a region. And really, I think everything changed the first week or two of August. We had both SK and Ford in town for 3 days solid, and spent those 3 days with them. And I think by the time they left and we showed them our great quality of life, our great education system, and what we could do from a workforce perspective, I think that's what sold the deal.
And just 20 seconds left. I totally forgot my question. So we're going to leave it there. Okay. I haven't done that. I really haven't done that in a long time. I'm sorry. It was a really incredible question, too, and the answer to it was so pithy and really shed incredible. Yeah, we'll put it on the podcast. We'll put it on the podcast. John, Mark, thanks for being here. Bill, thank you. Again, we'll talk to the Memphis Chamber folks in a couple of weeks. You can get past episodes of the show on WKNO.org. You can search for Behind the Headlines on YouTube, or as Bill just mentioned, it's also a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.